As a half-angel, half-demon hybrid, Alexander ascends to the throne, yet harbors deep-seated hatred for his father, who betrayed and murdered his mother. Welcome to the Alpha's Loved channel. If you enjoy this story, don't forget to subscribe and give it a thumbs up. Chapter 30, Alexander's POV. Among the list of most stupid people, you are currently at the top position. Congratulations, Your Highness. Diana said sickly as she sprawled on my bed while I leaned against the doorframe of the walk-in closet. It has been an hour since the meeting ended, and I took the time to have a relaxing shower before having some peaceful time I could clear my head after these exhausting few days, but it looked like there were plans for me. Plans I had no interest being part of. As soon as I had stepped out of the shower, I was met with Diana, my second-in-command, and Adrian, my third-in-command, already in my room, messing with my things, knowing very well I hated people touching my things without my permission. But then again, ever since we were kids, they never seemed to care about that. Growing up together, both of them have been a serious headache to me over the past few years. Despite being a year older than me, they still behaved like the kids they were at 6. She actually said something that makes sense instead of the bullshit she keeps spewing all day. Adrian, who was sitting a few feet away from me on the armchair, commented, which earned him a pillow flying straight in his face. He threw the pillow back at a pissed Diana, and I agree with her. He placed his feet on the small coffee table as he went through his phone. "See?" Diana nearly exclaimed as I pinched the bridge of my nose. Even a person with no brain is agreeing with me. A person with no brain is dead, but I am alive. So I have one. Adrian glared at her. "Oh, but you are not a person. You are a stupid piece of shit." Diana smiled at innocently. Says the girl who fainted on seeing a fake ghost at a haunted house. He mocked her. "What are you two doing here again?" I stopped their bickering before it turned into a full fight where I had to call my guards to separate them. "We came here to knock some sense into you." Diana sat up straight on the bed, looking straight at me. "Because apparently you have lost your head in a gutter somewhere when we arrived here." I glared at her, but she continued, knowing I would not do anything to her. "You should talk to her." "Yeah," Adrian agreed. "You make a great king but a stupid mate." They are the only persons who could call me names and get away with it, Analyze being the latest addition to the list, and they clearly took advantage of it. "Did I ask for your opinion?" I grumbled, throwing the towel that was in my hand at Adrian. "Can you two stop throwing shit at me?" Annoyed as the towel landed on the floor. "Your face is too tempting," Diana taunted him before looking back at me. "Come on, Alex. You cannot just sit here and do nothing." "Yeah, she seems nice." Adrian supported her. "And she is not afraid to call you out." He laughed at the end and Diana joined him. "To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." Diana said with a grin on his face. "That was a first, wasn't it?" I rolled my eyes. "Definitely. Dude went ballistic that night," Adrian added. "The door is right there." I glared at the two who had grins plastered on their face. "Leave. Okay, let's be serious now." She cleared her throat. "Are you going to talk to her?" "I don't know." "Do you like her?" I did not reply, as I looked at her. She sighed before asking, "Do you want to be with her?" Again, I stayed quiet. "Alex, you might lose her if you keep this up." Adrian reminded me, and I felt a strange feeling hit me for a split second. "We know it is not easy for you given you don't like opening up, but she has to know. I am trying." I told them. We did settle in a sort of friendly relationship, if it can even be called one, a few days we were out. What if she takes it in the wrong way? None of us know how she will react because you have yet to tell her. She rolled her eyes. I have only seen her at meetings and all, but I don't think she will take a rash decision. especially if it concerns her own future. Yeah, and whatever happened was not your fault, Alex, Adrian said. If it was not for that, you would not be here today and you would not have met her. She's into you, Alex. I saw the way she looked at you at meetings. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilbe, hearts are thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. And you are no different. I raised an eyebrow at her. You look at her like she's your world. In meetings, you look at her like she's your everything, Alex. I was about to say something, but Adrian beat me to it. Don't bother lying to us. We know you since we were kids. Give it a try, Alex, or you will regret it your entire life with the countless if. You just said it yourself. You have gotten along in the past few days. Now would be the right time to do it. Don't miss this opportunity, Alex. You never know. Maybe this was your one and only chance. Diana pressed on the matter. When they saw I was not going to answer, both of them got up and left the room. I let out an annoyed breath as they exited the room, their words floating in my head along with images of Annalise during the past few days. When I heard we were going together, I had already prepared myself for the worst, bickering, fighting and a lot of emotionally draining events, but it was not the case. It was anything but that. We got closer to each other and I felt a slight bond strengthening between us, joining both of us. Over the course of the few days, she had changed me in a way no one else has. There was a time where black was my favorite color, darkness. Deadly, powerful yet, that changed. Purple, ambitious, intelligent, hypnotizing, purple eyes. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Apparently, purple was now my favorite color. I had hesitated at first to give her details about my parents, but then if I had not, maybe the trip would not have been the way it was. Maybe it would actually turn out into something bad if. Her nightmare was another reminder of how I never wanted to see her in pain again. I could not help but wonder how any of these did she had to go through, alone when she was away. I still don't know for sure what happened between her and her family, but I know they were not in contact during the past few years since almost nobody knew of her and never came across her during their previous visits to the kingdom. I knew she would not open up entirely to me about her nightmare, and I understood her. We were only speaking properly for a day, and I was grateful for the snippets she did share. I wanted to know more about her past and her nightmare, but I could not just force her to open up when I had problems doing so myself. I wanted to build trust between the two of us, and it was a two-way process, not a one-way process. Both of us had to share what made us happy, sad all the things that haunted us in order for trust to be built, and if I had to take the initiative, so be it. It was time I man up and finally put everything on the table. The consequences could be dealt with later. There was a reason why she became my mate despite what happened. Making up my mind, I left my room and headed towards Annalise's room, which made me let out an annoyed groan given that it was on the other side of the castle. As my hand closed around the doorknob, I felt my heart pick up its pace, and nervousness made its appearance after so long that I had forgotten how it felt. Combination of dread and anxiety with worst-case scenarios flashing in my mind. I entered the room, but it was empty. Her bag laid on the floor with its contents pilling on the bed sheets as her scent, sweet vanilla with a hint of cinnamon, lingered in the room. The closet and bathroom were empty too. King Alexander. Someone said as I closed the door behind while I exited her room. I turned around and met the eyes of Annalise's grandmother, keeping my face calm and unbothered. There was a small smile, yet a hint of a smirk played on her lips as she looked up at me. Despite being the one who actually was present during the war between the werewolves and demons, she seemed not to care about the fact that I was a demon to compare to the rest of her family, who still held a grudge for a war they did not even help win. Yes, my voice came out as neutral as I addressed her. May I know why you were in my granddaughter's room? The hint of teasing in her tone did not go unnoticed by me as I looked at her, brows furrowed in confusion. We needed to figure out the riddle about the stake. I reminded her about our latest information. At this hour, she raised an eyebrow at me, quite odd I must say. Like you said earlier, we are short on time. I stuffed my hand in my pocket as she kept her smile on. I agree with you on that, King Denver. I simply nodded. Have you ever heard of the East Gardens, King Alexander? I shook my head. You might want to visit it. There is said to be a beautiful cave there if you find your way through the forest. Why should I visit it? I heard it is a dear spot to analyze. The glint in her eyes was back. Even if she is no longer queen, I don't doubt it one bit that she was a force to be reckoned with during her rule. Still is in fact. Her sweet and soft voice held power and authority with a hint of warning to it from years of experience dealing with different kinds of people. I gave her a curt nod as I walked past her, but I stopped dead in my tracks at her words. King Alexander, I am trusting you with her. I hope you make the right choices despite your previous actions, for if any harm falls upon her because of you, your title will be nothing but a mere title. I felt my red water turn cold as I turned around to be met with her smiling face. It won't suffice to stop me from reverting to rather violent methods. Her words were like needles in her smile, the shiny finish to them, not making them less dangerous. They were more lethal, camouflaging the danger underneath an attractive coat. Not giving me a chance to respond, she simply turned on her heels and walked away. Definitely a force to be reckoned with, Elias said, and I completely agreed with him. I could see where Annalise got a few of her character traits from, and I could not be more thankful. Chapter 31 Analyzes POV. My entire body tensed as I heard light footsteps coming from the forest as they approached the cave. Judging by the sound, I could tell that there was only one person. The only person who did know about this place was my grandmother, but the footsteps were not hers and neither was the scent. I got on my feet as it got closer. I did not what I expected, but Alexander was definitely not one of them. Alexander entered the cave from the entrance that led to the forest, dressed in basic sweatpants and shirt that exposed his inked arms. What are you doing here? I asked before adding, and don't you dare say, I could ask you the same thing. I made quote signs in the air, quoting his words from the first night we met. I need to talk to you about some things. I guess the time to clear certain things among us has arrived. Can we sit and talk? His voice sounded different from usual, and I could not quite decipher what, but I would soon figure it out. I nodded and turned to go sit near the edge of the pool, cross-legged. How do you know about this place and that I was here? I asked as he sat next to me, keeping some distance between us. Your grandmother told me. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. She did. Does she know that we are mates? Apparently yes. I sighed. How? I had no clue. This place is beautiful. Do you come here often? He questioned as he took in the cave home. He looked uncomfortable as he averted my gaze, and his posture was clearly stiff. It helped with the stress. My voice came out soft as I answered his questions. I did not know what he wanted to tell me, but judging by his behavior, I could it was not something mundane. I just hope whatever he would say would mend our relationship instead of ruining it. These past days, whether we agree or not, we did get closer to each, and I wanted more days like in my life. Just me and him. I wanted the same feeling of home again. What do you want to talk about? I broke the silence that had fallen upon us, and the awkwardness had started to fill the air. Look, if you are not comfortable talking about it, don't force yourself. I want to get it over with. Still looking at the water. I don't know what you will think of me, but please listen to the entire thing before reaching a conclusion. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. He took in a deep breath as he started. Not many people know about this, but my mother and father were not of the same kind. My mother was an angel while my father was a demon. They met each other by accident and my mother fell in love with him, but it was not the same for my father. He sighed and his voice sounded a little strained. That time, the mate bonds had lost their importance. My father, he saw my mother just as someone who would give him an heir. My father convinced my mother to get together with him on the sole condition that nobody should know about them. Being in love, my mother trusted him blindly. He let out a bitter chuckle. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. He was the best mate one could ask for. He was caring, loyal, loving, and was by my mother's side every second of the day. It was all an act. My mother got pregnant with me and my finally showed his true colors. He distanced himself from my mother, ignored her, and never spent time with her. It was all while my mother was pregnant, the time where she needed his support the most. Since nobody knew of their relationship, she could not get help and she was scared if she told others. My father would leave her. His fists clenched at his side along with jaws, a fire burning in his eyes as he looked in the water. Not thinking, I placed my hand on his clenched one and gave him a reassuring squeeze. He unclenched his fist and interlocked our fingers together and finally looked at me, a small smile on his face, yet I could see the pain along with the fire in his eyes. My mother did up though, and gave birth to me. While my mother saw me as a part of herself, my father saw me as a trophy, someone who would carry on his legacy. He announced their relationship to the demons so that they would know about me, their heir. Still, he did not tell them the truth, not entirely. He told them my mother was a demon too. He even used a witch to help him change her scent, which in turn weakened her. He stopped for a second, composing him again before continuing while I could not help my stomach from churching at the revelation. My mother endured all his insult, beatings and mistreatment just for me. She wanted to be with me. His hold tightened around my hand as I saw pain flash in his eyes. He started training me since I was 5. Many said he overworked me, but then again he never cared about anyone else. Not me and not even my mother. He only cared about himself, his power and authority. One day while I was training, I lost a fight to a stronger opponent and got seriously injured. But instead of acting like any normal father would, he only showed me his disappointment in me. He shouted profanities at me in front of everyone to the point I could not take it, and I ran away and hid in my closet. He let out a chuckle, but nothing about it was funny, only pain and hatred. My mother found me that night and she could no longer stand on the side while my father treated me like that. She decided to go talk to him, but that was probably the worst decision she took. When we went to his office, he was making out with a witch. The same witch who changed my mother's scent. For the first time I saw my mother cry. That night had been the breaking point for her, seeing her own mate with someone else. While my mother was breaking, my father was unbothered and accused my mother of interrupting him. A fight broke out between my mother and father. I could not do anything and just stood there. At a point, my mother got really angry and attacked the witch, but due to the spell that changed her scent, she was weak. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. She cursed me as a way to hurt my mother. What curse? I asked in a low voice. She forbade me of having a mate. My mother was really sad that I would not be able to have a family on my own in the future. My father, he saw me as someone even weaker since there would be no heir to carry on the kingdom. He became worse. He cheated on my mother multiple times. The only difference was that he would do it in their room, the room my mother slept instead of somewhere else. Every night, my mother would come to my room with Thierry and a new excuse to spend the night in my room. She thought I was oblivious to what my father was doing, but I knew. I knew, and yet I was not able to do anything. There was a slight tremble in his voice. The final straw was that he killed her. I took a sharp intake of breath as he spoke, not expecting what he said. He killed my mother, his own mate. I was only 10 and I witnessed every second of it. The memory of my mother lying in her own pool of red water while my father stood next to her body completely unbothered as he held the sword coated with my mother's red water. That night, not only did I lose the only person who ever cared about me and made me happy, but also a part of myself. I was extremely close to my mother, and when she left, she took a piece of me with her. His eyes glazed with unshed tears as his voice shook. My father kept training me every day, each day harder than the previous. While he was training me to take over as king, I trained to kill him, and I did. At 15, I killed him and took the throne. Nobody said anything because I won fair and square and proved myself to them countless times before that. Besides, they also knew how bad my father was as not only a leader but a person. I felt my heart ache as his voice broke at the end. Every time we spoke, his voice was always firm and full of authority, strong and powerful, but right now it was filled with vulnerability. A single tear escaped as he looked at the clear water in front of us. Using my free hand, I wiped the tear away from his face, my own eyes getting teary as my throat went dry. I felt helpless, not being able to say anything to comfort him. When my fingers made contact with his face, he turned to look at me. The fire in his eyes was gone. His usual icy eyes that looked like the calm ocean looked dull and dark, as if several dark clouds were looming over it. I moved closer to him and slowly wrapped my hand around his torso. I felt his body go rigid under my touch, but he finally relaxed after a while. He moved slightly so that he was facing me, and I felt his hands go around me as he hugged me back. I threaded one of my hands through his dark locks while the other stayed around him. I ran my fingers softly through his hair. I finally said, "Nobody should go through what you did. I killed my father," he said, and I could hear the guilt in his tone combined with the slight weariness. "I know." I let out a sigh. But he deserved it. Honestly, it was an easy way out for him. He deserved worse than death. Whatever you have been through is part of you, and without these events, you would not be here. You would not be who you are. This is your story and it is part of you. I pulled away from him and saw another tear escape his eyes. Wiping it with my thumb, I continued, "It shows how strong you are, both mentally and physically. You survived whatever life threw at you, and here you are today." I gave him a light smile. "A powerful leader." I quoted his words from the car. "People look up to you and respect you. You did what you had to do." He stayed quiet as he took my hands in his, interlocking our fingers together. "Does this have something to do with why you did not want to tell everyone about us?" I asked after a moment of silence. He nodded before speaking, embarrassment evident in his voice. "I grew up thinking I would not have a mate, but then I saw you and I did not know what to do. At that time all I could think of was the relationship of my mother and father." He met my eyes. "I was scared I would turn into my father. I did not want to hurt you or get you involved with the darkness of my life. Then, your family and mine hated each other. I knew nothing about you and I thought you would hate us too. It was messed up. I was messed up. Why did you not tell me at the very beginning? I was scared of losing you. I thought you would hate me because of our family's history, and if I would tell you that I killed my father, it would be worse." I did not blame him for thinking like that because I thought like to that night when I did not tell him anything about my family. And if I had a mate despite being cursed, it could mean only two things. Either the witch was bad at putting the spell or I was very fortunate. I would go with the latter. He looked at me, confused. When I spoke to the nude goddess, she said I was not supposed to have a mate and you had a similar fate to mine, and said something along the lines, "When you join to broken things it can make something even better." I know none of it justifies my action, but I just wanted to know. His voice came out low. But why did the moon goddess say that you were broken to? I tensed at the question as his question caught me by surprise. Lizzie, tell him. He just opened up to you. What if, no ifs, you will not know until you tell him. Chapter 32. Analyzer's POV. It was time to finally put everything on the table. The rest could be dealt with later. I took in a deep breath as I composed myself. So on my first birthday, a seer told my parents about a prophecy on me. That changed my family's opinion about me. They never bothered finding out the true meaning about the prophecy. They treated me as if I was an abomination or something. My siblings followed in the footsteps of my parents. Then when I was 5, the palace was under attack like it said in the letter. They had come for me. They came straight to my old room. They nearly got me when the guards intervened right in time, but they were outnumbered quickly. Hearing the chaos in my room, more guards came along with my family. Vampires had surrounded the castle from all sides. It turned into a complete red water bath. I had yet to know about my powers. I could not do anything except then hide while the others risked their life. Some of them lost their life as they tried to protect me. Among the many people who lost their lives, my grandfather, I cleared my throat as a lump formed in my throat. He also lost his life. A vampire was about to get to me when he jumped in front of me and got stabbed by a silver dagger which cost him his life. My eyes moistened as the image flashed in my mind. I still remember rushing to his aid. I held him as he took his last breath with his red water all over me, my hands, the floor. It was everywhere, the way his eyes slowly closed as the light faded from his eyes. I had felt his body go limp in my hands. My hands shook as I imagined the scene that night. Alexander held my hands tightly in his, giving me enough courage to continue. I still remember his last words, "Be happy, princess," escaped me. Every word I said felt like gravel on my tongue as I struggled to keep going. Each breath I took to calm myself down felt like needles tearing my flesh apart, burning as my eyes moistened. Even though I no longer saw the scars from that night, they were still here and they were deep. My parents, they found us in that position. They blamed me for his death. With their words, they made it seem like I killed him, with my own hands. At first, though, they were just grieving the loss of their loved one and taking out the frustration on me, but I soon found out the harsh reality. They took that as an opportunity to get rid of me. They did not bother hiding their hatred from me. When my grandmother put herself under the spell, they sent me away. I shrugged at the end, trying to chase away the pain. That night has plagued me ever since. I just can't seem to forget it. The red water, their cries, the chaos, my grandfather, the pain in my grandmother's eyes and the hatred of my family. I sniffed, feeling my chest constrict. It was too much. Alexander cut my face as he made me look at him, my body visibly shaking. He placed his forehead on mine as his thumbs wiped the straight ears away. "It was not your fault, Analyze. It's their fault they do not realize your worth and what they are missing." A sense of relief passed through me. They don't deserve you. A small smile played on my lips as I leaned into his touch, happy to let go and knowing he was there with me. "Your nightmare, it was not only about the attack." I hummed in response as I pulled away slightly to look at him. Their dead bodies and the whole scene of that night plays in my head every night. It had been like ever since that night. Despite the sadness, I felt light. I was happy to finally get this off my chest. "Does anyone else know about your father and mother?" "My friends Diana and Adrian know pieces of what happened. You are the first to know it all." "You and your grandfather seemed close." "We were." I smiled feebly. He was the only one along with my grandmother who never treated me differently after that prophecy. He would spend time with me, give me gifts, narrate stories and cook for me. He was the best. What about your mother? You did not say much about her last time. Perfect. He said just like he did in the car. I really admire her. Despite all the actions of my father, she endured it all for me. I hate that she died, but then I am also happy that is no longer here. At least she no longer has to fear my dad or endure his mistreatment tests. I am sure wherever she is extremely happy and proud of you. I am sure it was true. Just like she is the best mother you could ask for. You were the best son she could ask for. Trust me about that. A light chuckle escaped his mouth. You said your parents sent you away. Where did you go? I informed him. I was under the care of an Annie for a few years. When I was 13, I met Malcolm. He worked for an organization that also had a school for a supernatural. He made arrangements and I got enrolled in the school. Was it not boring? I had Evelyn to keep me company and the other kids were nice too. We had considerable leeway regarding our choices. We could go out after school hours and during the holidays. Those who stayed in the dorms had the opportunity to take part in different fun activities. In any way, it was better than living in an apartment with a nanny who had no interest in teaching me things. Did you ever come back here during your holidays? No, they never contacted me during those time. I only came back this year and that too. Because of the war. Do you regret coming back? The first few days. Yes, but not so much now. I learnt many new things about me and other things. What are you going to do once the war is over? No clue. I admitted. He just shrugged. What was your training like? I asked him. It was brutal, to say the least. He would make me fight several opponents who were already experienced and better at combat than me all at once. I would have training the entire day, each hour with a different teacher with little to no breaks in between. All the physical training could be handled, but it was his verbal attacks that hurt the most. But it is in the past now. You are really strong, Alexander, and not just physically. You got through it all, proving your father wrong, I found myself saying. Did you know we have the same eye color? Yours are purple, mine are blue. When my wolf takes control, my eyes turn silver just like yours when your demon takes over. I don't how, but it is true. It must have something to do with your powers. He suggested. Last time too, the demons obeyed my commands. I reminded him. They only obey the commands of their leaders. So it makes you one. I raised an eyebrow at him. You are Black Wolf and you have great powers. Maybe more than me, but we were not supposed to be mates. Maybe when she paired us, she did something so that we both had equal authority over the demons. You are their leader no matter what happens. The moon goddess told me that the main reason why we don't have mates is that many wolves do not like having someone more powerful than them as their mate. Do you want someone with the same amount of authority as your mate? I voiced out my thoughts. Having someone with equal authority by your side is a good thing. In case you are doing something wrong, the other one can help. Besides, I would rather have someone who could point out my mistakes and flaws instead of just agreeing with everything I said. For a few minutes, both of us went silent as we processed whatever just happened over the span of a few minutes. Both of us managed to open up to each other, and I could no longer feel the strain that was present between us during our first few encounters. Alexander finally decided to break the silence. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience and enthusiasm. I know I have not been the mate you wanted ever since we met. I accept that I was an asshole to you and I regret it. I was stupid and clearly not thinking. I know that my past does not justify any of my actions and I don't expect you to forgive me about them. But I am really sorry, Annalise. Sincerity was clear in his eyes. I truly am sorry. I regret every word I said and everything I did. Without knowing it, I actually turned into my father. I hurt you, ignored you and said rude things to you. My actions cannot be justified because I was scared of losing you. I had another option. You could talk to me. I finished for him, yes. If you had, we would not have to go through all this pain. He nodded. Like I said, I don't expect you to forgive me. I sighed as I said what was on my mind. I might sound mean right now, but I will not beat around the bush anymore. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, hearts up thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. You had a hard past and a shitty father, and it reflected in your choices. I understand that, but I cannot just forget everything. I forgive you, I told him. But I cannot just forget everything and act like none of those things happened between us. Like you said, you had a choice but you chose wrong. We all make mistakes. Despite feeling guilty, I had to do it. After everything I went through, trust did not come easily to me. Alexander did not betray me, but he did hurt me even if he never intended to do so. I did not want to appear like anyone could just come and play with me and my feelings and get away just like that. I already fell victim to that once at the hands of my own family, and I refused to let it happen again. It was the right thing to do. I understand, and I am not angry by your decision. I have only one thing to ask you. He looked at me with pleading eyes. Please, give me a chance to prove myself and make amends. I want to prove myself worthy of your trust in time analyze. I did not know what to say because when I voiced out my thought, I did not expect him to ask for a chance. I half expected him to just walk away again, but he surprised me with his words. Alexander. I could not find the words. Please. I finally said him relax as he let out a relieved breath. Thank you. He gave a small smile. He pulled me into a hug. I sighed as I hugged him back while he rested his chin on my head. I promise you will not regret this. I will make it up to you, and I am really sorry once again. A half smile played at my lips as I pulled away. You might want to step up your game because hugs and sweet words will not be enough to please me. I could not help but smirk. I am not real easy to please. I have yet to show you all my moves, princess. The determination was clear in his eyes as he mirrored my smirk, looking confident in himself. I will be the judge of that. I could not wait to see what he would do. Chapter 33 analyzes POV. The sweet smell of syrup and waffles along with pancakes and fresh fruits filled my nose as I stepped out of the walk-in closet. My mouth fell open slightly at the sight in front of me. The small seating area had been converted in what could be paradise on earth for me. The coffee table had different plates of food, each looking more delicious than the previous one, placed on it. I could feel my mouth water at the food that was basically calling for me. The table was covered with a white tablecloth and the table groaned under the weight of a full breakfast spread. There were waffles, syrups, toasts, jams, fresh fruits, bacon, scrambled eggs and different drinks in glass pitchers. In the middle of the table, there was a vase with blue and teal roses, my favorite colors. Pillows were arranged on the floor around the table to act as a seating area. I was so engrossed in the whole arrangement that I did not realize there was someone else in the room until they spoke, slightly startling me. Good morning. Alexander. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Half surprised and half confused. What are you doing in my room? He was leaning against the doorframe of the little balcony area, looking like the handsome devil he was in his black suit and messy hair. Breakfast, he said as he stood properly in motion to the table. How did you do all of this without me hearing anything? I was in my closet for the past 30 minutes getting ready and had not heard a single footstep in my room. He shrugged, but I saw his lips quirk into a small smirk as he walked towards me. Let's eat, he simply said as he placed his hands on my shoulders before turning me around and guiding me towards the seating area. I took a seat on the pillows. pulling one onto my lap as he sat on my opposite side. I took in all the plates displayed on the table again. When did you get time to do all of this? It's nothing, he said casually. It's a lot, actually. My eyes roamed around the table before finally they landed on the plate in front of me. Unlike the others, this one was covered with a lid. What is this? Again, he shrugged before motioning for me to lift the lid. My brows furrowed in confusion as I cautiously lifted the lid, half expecting something to jump out from underneath it. I took in a sharp intake of breath as its content got revealed. I am sorry. There was a stack of pancakes on the plate with I am sorry written with chocolates also and a small smiley face underneath the words. Blueberries sat around the bottom along with some blackberries. I looked back at him to find his eyes fixed on mine. Yesterday's dark blue eyes were gone, replaced by his sharp blue icicles. I am sorry, he said out loud, his eyes softening a little. For everything. I found myself smiling slightly at his initiative. Alexander. I did not know how to respond to that. I already forgave him yesterday, and all of this was overwhelming. It was probably the first time someone did something like this for me, and I would be lying if I said I didn't love it, from the food to the flowers. Thank you, I finally said. It's nothing. As soon as he said it, my stomach grumbled and I felt a slight blush creep up my cheeks. I coughed awkwardly as a light chuckle escaped him. Eat analyze. Not wanting to my stomach suffer a second longer, I took a bite from the stacked delicious pancake. I let out a pleased moan as my eyes widened slightly at how good it tastes. I was so close to doing a happy dance. The pancake was perfect on its own, but combined with the chocolate syrup and the fresh blueberries, it was simply heavenly. This is so good. To my agent extraordinaire, life.丨Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. My mouth stuffed with pancake. A small smile played on his lips as he watched me eat. Mouth still filled with pancakes. I looked at his as he removed his blazer before setting it on the side and rolling up his sleeves up, revealing his ink tarns. He raised an eyebrow at me when he realized I was looking at him, but I just shrugged and went back to eating as he started eating. Unlike the usual breakfast we every day, this one was way more delicious. Everything was perfect and it felt like the person who cooked it actually wanted to cook and not because it was their job to do so. I have been at the palace and eaten its food for long enough to know that this was not prepared by the workers here. Either we got new workers or he ordered it from a breakfast place in town. But then, the town was pretty far from here and by the time the food got here, it would have been cold and soggy. Also, I doubted that any restaurant would write I am sorry on their pancakes on a request. And as far as I know, there have been no changes in staff. I froze as I was about to take the next bite. Realization dawned upon me as my eyes darted from the food to Alexander, who was eating. No wonder he was not giving me any details about where and how he did all of this. Just like in the car last time, he felt slightly shy and embarrassed that his hobby was in cooking. You made all of this, I stated, and he lifted his from his plate. Meeting mine, I saw the slight blush making its appearance once again. This is so good, Alexander. Glad you like it. He cleared his throat. Like it. I love it. I smiled at him. Thank you so much. This is probably the best breakfast I have had in years. I took another bite of the pancake before placing a waffle on my plate and poured some of the syrup on it. Where did you learn to cook? My mother. A faraway look on his face, but a tiny smile played on his lips. Whenever my father would not be around and I was free from training, she would get me to help her cook. I picked up a few things from her. To my agent extraordinaire, life.丨Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I rolled my eyes. I cannot even cook to save my life. You never cooked. Amusement lingered in his eyes as he took another bite of his food now. I said as a matter of fact. Where I lived with my nanny, she would take care of the food. Once I entered school, food was provided to us by school. All I had to do was go to the dining halls, take a plate and fill it up with the food. So, I never tried cooking. As soon as I completed my sentence, I remembered an incident. The one time I did try was when I had missed dinner and I got hungry. We had access to the kitchen in case we got hungry. I tried cooking something that I nearly burnt down the entire school after this incident. I never missed any meal and I was no longer allowed to enter the kitchen. That earned me a small chuckle from him. Remind me to never be in a kitchen with you. He joked, "Don't worry, that won't happen because kitchens are a no-entry place for me." I reassured him. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. How did you manage to prepare all this? I had my guards restrict the access to the kitchen in the morning while I did my thing. He said nonchalantly, "You did all of this on your own." I kept getting surprised. It's not a big deal. How come none of the workers went to the kitchen even if you restricted the access? They should have been there to prepare breakfast for the rest. It was early. They start cooking at 6 in the morning, and judging by all this food, I would say it took you a good 30 minutes for the preparation, another hour to cook and 30 minutes at least for the plating. I said out loud as I motioned to the different plates, "When did you start cooking?" I asked curiously. "You don't need to worry about that. I told you I will make it up to you, and that is what I am doing." He dismissed the subject and I shook my head and continued eating, each bite tasting like heaven in my mouth. "I am afraid I underestimated you," I said lightly. "You seem to know about this pretty well." "I just know you pretty well." Shooting a small smile. "Thanks to your endless talking during our little trip." I felt a little fluttered at the fact that he still remembered what we talked about during that time. "Maybe you should ask for more chances to prove yourself. This way, I would get this delicious breakfast every day," I said as I finished my waffle before reaching for some fruits. Soon we finished breakfast with a few mundane talks here and there. The few times we were quiet, it was not awkward. It was peaceful and just perfect. This was probably one of the best ways I could start my day with. "I need to leave. I have to take care of something," he said as he got up. "I will have someone come clean this up." He wore his blazer. "Don't worry about that." I got up, adjusting my clothes. I clicked my fingers and everything disappeared in the blink of an eye. He shook his head as he started walking towards the door and followed him. A few feet away from the door, I stopped him. "Thank you so much for all of this. It was perfect." I gave him a smile as I took a few steps closer to him. I did not know what I was going to do, but I wanted to do something. My hands felt clammy and slightly shaky. I placed them on his shoulders. His eyes remained fixed on mine, slightly dark as I raised to the tip of my toes. Before I had any change of mind, I pressed a small kiss close to the corner of his lips, but making sure our lips did not touch. I was not ready to just kiss him right now. Not waiting to see his reaction, I all but pushed him out of my room, slamming the door shut when he stepped out as I felt my whole body heat up, especially my cheeks. "Oh God," I groaned to myself. "What?" Eveline half exclaimed and shouted while I buried my face in the pillow, letting out a groan. "I told you to keep it down," I told her. "Quiet. You want to stay quiet, Annalise." She said, and I knew she was pissed given that she used my name, Effie. "I am not done talking, Annalise." She glared at me and I stayed quiet, letting her remove all her frustration. "First you meet your mate, but you did not tell me. Then it turns out he's an asshole and still you don't tell me. Now you guys are together. I told you about my mate as soon as I could, but you did not. You had all these times where you could have told me, but you did not. Do you really take me for your best friend, Annalise?" I was taken aback by the last part and I felt really guilty. After all these days, I finally told her everything about Alexander. I have tried to tell her previously, but then at times I was confused myself. Evie, you know I love you. She scoffed, but I could see the tears in her eyes. Trust me, I was about to tell you the day you told me about Raina and Axel, but then my mother interrupted us. Later, things got messy between Alexander and me. I did not even know where we stood at that time. You are my best friend and will always be, Evie. I am really sorry. I know you are angry right now, but please try to understand me. If you leave me right now, I will lose another person I love, just like I did when I was 5, and I can't take it, Evie. Please. By the end, tears were falling from her face. She pulled me in a bone-crushing hug. I won't leave you, Honor. It's just that. You could have told me earlier, but I understand. I just regret not being by your side when all of that happened. I love you too. I am sorry. How can I make it up to you? She pulled away, the teary Eveline gone, leaving behind an Eveline with mischief glowing in her eyes and a grin on his face. I want a girls' day and night. During the day we go shopping, eat, get our hair and nails done with no interference from anybody. Not even our mates. Then, at night, we go out clubbing before coming back here and binge, watching movies till the morning. And you pay for all of them. Done. To my agent extraordinaire, Mylan Nilben. Heart-thought-thanks-her-unsaying patience, enthusiasm. And one more thing. Alexander and I are not together. You just said you cleared things out and had breakfast. Well, I told him I could not forget what he did, and he asked for a chance to prove himself. You better make him work for it. She glared at me playfully. One more thing, Evie. No one can know about this, okay? Not about me and Alexander. Not about my powers. Got it, and I need you to promise me you will no longer keep anything from me. Promise. We sealed the promise with our little friendship hand trick. Chapter 30 for analyzes POV. So you are Alexander's mate. I felt my red water turn cold as I froze in my spot. My glass of water frozen mere centimeters away from my lips at the unknown voice. Still shocked, I turned around, coming face to face with a brunette. She was the same girl I saw as Alexander's side countless of time, and she was also the one who caught me staring at Alexander at the meeting a week ago. She was a beautiful girl of a love around my height. Her dark brown hair was in a braid as her hazel eyes held a mixture of curiosity and amusement with light freckles on her skin. I did not know who she was at all. I did not know her name, who she was to Alexander, and most importantly, why was she talking to me? I guess she was pretty close to Alexander since she knows about us. Seeing my shocked state, she face-palmed herself. Sorry, that came out weird. She explained, a small smile on her face. I forgot to introduce myself. Princess Annalise. I am Diana, the second hand in command and close friend of Alexander. Nice to meet you. I offered a small smile of my own as I lowered the glass of water. Please call me Annalise. All right, Annalise. You and Alexander are mates then? She stated again. Yeah, I said awkwardly, pinning her with a curious stare. Why are you asking me this? I was just wondering how the idiot got so lucky. She let out an excited squeal, shocking me even more as she pulled in a bone-crushing hug as I stumbled slightly before my hand grabbed the side of the counter as I stabilized myself. Calm down, I said lightly, letting out a small laugh. She had to be close with Alexander if she could just go around calling him idiot. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. She said sheepishly as she pulled away. I am kind of an energetic person. Kind of. I raised an eyebrow at her, amused at antics. She and Eveline had the same crazy, extrovert vibe, and I had no doubt that these two would get along really well if I introduced them to each other. Okay, I am really energetic and weird at times. So you should already expect these type of things whenever I am around. I will keep that in mind. I drank the remaining water in the glass before placing it in the sink. So, he told you about it? She replied, knowing who I was referring to. He told it to us after you called him asshole and not to mention. You flipped him off. That night, I swear he was in such a sour mood that everybody stayed out of his way. He would be irritated simply because our breathing. She rolled her eyes at us. I asked as she finished, who else know about this? Only Adrian, his third in command, and me. She informed before she kept going. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilbe, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing enthusiasm. All three of us grew up together. Even if he is our king, he is also kind of our brother. The three of us are kind of family in a way. You really care about them. The way her tone changed from a cheerful girl to one with only love and care did nothing to prove me wrong. They might be stupid and idiots, but they are still my brothers. Her voice was soft. After losing both his parents, Alexander had no one except us who he was close with, and it's the same for Adrian and I. Despite coming from the lower-ranked families, Alexander still never treated us any differently. He makes a great king. He is. She agreed. You know, after everything that happened when he was 15, we no longer saw the Alexander we knew when we were younger. The loss of his mother hit him hard, especially since he was left in the care of his father. He became a shell of the person he once was. She let out a sigh. Losing someone dear is always hard. My thoughts went to my grandfather. But he's happy now, Annalise. She looked at me with a small smile. He does not show it, but he is. I have seen how he was these past few years. But it took only a few days with you for him to get back a little of his old personality. I just looked at her inquisitively, waiting for her to continue. Ever since you got back from the search, he has changed. He is not always wearing a frown nor glaring icicles at everyone in his path. He truly likes you, Annalise. It was my time to sigh. I know he is my brother, but he was absolutely stupid for what he did. Honestly, make him work hard for it. I let out a smile. All the shit he did, he deserves this. He's sticking by his words. I said as the past few days floated in my mind. Ever since that morning where he made me breakfast, my every morning has been perfect. It has been 2 weeks since we first had breakfast in my room. I thought it was just a one-time thing to express his sincerity, but the next morning he surprised me again with breakfast. And the next morning too. And the morning after too. He made me breakfast every day. Every morning there would be delicious breakfast waiting for me near the seating area. Even if I told him countless of times it was not necessary, he would not budge. He would simply shrug and tell me to eat. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilbe, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing enthusiasm. I did convince him to make less food so that he would not have to wake up that early to prepare everything. Every morning, I would have delicious breakfast waiting for me with perfect plating. His love for cooking always shined through his plate because they never looked trashed or as if he was doing it just for the sake of it. The best part was that there was not a day where he did not write "I am sorry" on my pancakes. Even if he did not make pancakes, he would find something on which he could write it. Along with that, he would always bring a bouquet of fresh teal and blue roses for me every morning. There were times where he could not join me for breakfast because of training, and all but the breakfast would always be there, with a small yet sweet note on the side. Basically, my morning started in the best way possible. Other than breakfast, we would hang out at the cave, just talking about our life and sharing new things about us to each other. His little actions meant a great thing to me, Earth to Annalise. Diana snapped her fingers in front of me, breaking me out from the trance I was under. Sorry, got distracted. I was not joking when I said he is lucky to have you. She said once again. You truly make him happy. Slowly, but surely. Her words made me feel flustered slightly. He helped me too. You know. To my agent extraordinaire, life.丨Nocturnal, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. My own voice turning soft as I leaned against the counter. Whenever I needed him, he was there. I refrained from giving details about the situations, and she did not press for them either. Below his rough and cold exterior lays a gentle and caring person. You just have to get through the outer layers first. I know. A smile played on my lips. I have seen glimpses of his gentle side. You are blushing. She teased me as she wiggled her eyebrows playfully at me, but I just rolled my eyes. Do you have a mate? I asked her. Not yet. She let out a bored sigh. I will just live my life, and when time comes, I will meet him. I agree. All these mate talks aside, we should hang out more often. You seem really nice. To my agent extraordinaire, life.丨Nocturnal, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I feigned hurt, placing my hand over my heart. You offend me, Diana. You know I did not mean it like that. She swatted my hand playfully, rolling her eyes. Anyways, let's talk about why I came here first of all. And what would that be? Instead of answering me, she fished out a note from her pockets and placed it in my hand. I just came here to deliver this. Read it before tonight. What is it about? I don't know. She said nonchalantly. It's for you to find out. She shot me a wink as she turned around and left the kitchen. Since the day's meeting was over and so was lunch, I pocketed the note before heading to my room. I sat down on my bed, the note in my hand. Unfolding the paper, a smile hit my lips as I recognized the familiar, neat handwriting. I am really shitty at writing these things. But thank you for giving me this chance, and I am sorry for everything I did. Sorry for being an asshole to you. Get ready at 8. To my agent extraordinaire, life.丨Nocturnal, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. A little laugh escaped me as I finished reading, but at the same time flat in my stomach as my heart skipped a beat. For the past 2 weeks, I have received several notes like this whenever he could not have breakfast with me or when we did not spend time together apart from breakfast. They all started the same way. He would thank me and then proceed to apologize before writing something sweet, as sweet as he could write, and would always sign them as asshole, which would affirm me even if the previous sentences were emotional. Shaking my head, I opened the drawer from the nightstand and took out a box. Opening the lid, I placed the note neatly among the other notes Alexander has given me. I have been collecting them since I received the first one. The rest of the day went by rather fast, with an unexpected meeting regarding the situation with the vampires, which had surprisingly calmed down. There were no sightings, no attacks, and no new letters from them. Dinner went by quickly, but I did not see Alexander at all during the day, not even for breakfast. As I applied my last touch of makeup, I could not help but feel excited, but at the same time nervous. I had no idea where we were going or what we were about to do. If we were going to some fancy dinner, I was screwed because I was dressed in a casual outfit. A knock broke me out of my trance. Come in, I said as I placed the lip gloss on the dresser and checking my hair one last time. Someone is glowing. Diana entered the room. Taking my phone from the dresser, I turned around and faced her, smiling at her. Let's go. Little boy's waiting for you. New nickname, I see. I joked as we left my room. He is whipped. He does not show it, but trust me, he is, she said in a low voice. So where are we going? She just shrugged at my question as we sneaked through the hallways, careful not to be seen by anyone. Give me a hint at least. At least tell me if my outfit is fit for it. She shrugged again. She must have gotten this habit from Alexander. After several twists and turns, we finally made it out of the castle. This exit was slightly less guarded and frequented by the others since it was not the main entrance. We walked down the cobblestone path. Towards the gate. He is waiting for you down the road, Diana said as we walked past the gates, pointing a bit down the road. Indeed, I could see a car parked there. Have fun. She gave me a small hug. Thanking her, we parted ways. I made my way down the road, the nerves increasing with every step as I felt my hands get clammy. I made out Alexander's silhouette as he leaned against the hood of the car. I let out a breath as I took in his outfit. He was not wearing a suit or anything fancy, which meant a fancy dinner was not the plan. He was already watching me as I made my way towards him, and I could not help but feel my body heat up under his eyes. The night was cold against my skin, but it was nothing compared to his heated gaze. Hey, I said lightly as I got closer to him. He stood up and closed the little distance between us in a few strides. You look beautiful, he said as he pulled me in a hug. I let out a content sigh from the warm feeling radiating from him. He pulled back and pressed a small kiss on my forehead. Since the first small kiss, if it can even be called one, we got more comfortable with each other and exchanged hugs and small kisses here and there, though we had yet to actually kiss. Still, his small kisses and gestures had a special place in my heart. You don't look bad either. Eyeing him and down, but he just rolled his eyes. He led me to the passenger seat and opened the door for me. As he rounded the car, I could not help but wonder where we headed to. Where are we going? I asked as he got in his seat. Ever heard the word surprise? He put on his seatbelt. I huffed as he started the car and drove towards our destination. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode of the story, please give it a like, and don't forget to subscribe to get notifications for updates.